Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here today. It's February 17th, 2026, and we're going to begin now the meeting for the North Carolina Drivers Education Advisory Committee. This is a legislatively mandated committee operating under the guidelines established by the State Board of Education and the North Carolina Driver Education Strategic Plan. I'm Dr. Leonard, Assistant Director of the Governor's Highway Safety Program and Chair of the DEAC. I now call this meeting to order. I would like to extend a welcome to our committee members who are present in person and those joining us virtually. We also welcome our on-site visitors and our online participants. Please be reminded that this meeting will be conducted in compliance with the North Carolina Public Meetings Law and in accordance with the Roberts Rules of Order. The agenda and supporting materials are available on the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction website, www.dpi.nc.gov, under the State Board of Education e-board page. The meeting is being live streamed through a link available at the bottom of the DPI DEAC webpage via the YouTube app. Please note that the meeting is being recorded and will be made available on the DPI YouTube channel as soon as practical. The members of this committee play a vital role representing stakeholders in teen traffic safety education across the state. District leaders have also been identified and notified of these meetings as the needs of local education agencies remain central to our mission and purpose. The purpose of the North Carolina Drivers Education Advisory Committee shall be to advise and make recommendations to the State Board Education through the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction on the implementation of the North Carolina Drivers Education Strategic Plan and other issues related to driver education and traffic safety. Our mission statement, composed of experience and diverse perspectives, the Driver Education Advisory Committee provides research-based information and recommendations to the State Board of Education to implement and maintain the Driver Education Strategic Plan. The Advisory Committee advocates for certified professional teachers, highly qualified instruction, and up-to-date curricula to prepare each student to be an informed and responsible driver. The ethics statement. Committee members are reminded that it is our duty to avoid conflicts of interest and the appearance of conflicts of interest as we handle the work of this committee. Does any member of the committee know of any conflict of interest or any appearance of conflict with respect to any matters coming before us at this meeting today? If so, please state them for the record. If during the course of the meeting you become aware of an actual or apparent conflict of interest, please bring the matter to the attention of the chair. It will then be your duty to abstain from participating in discussion on the matter and from voting on the matter should be necessary. All right, approval of the agenda and the meeting minutes. Committee members, you've had an opportunity. The unapproved minutes from the last meeting on November 17th were made available to you prior to this meeting, which you should have had a chance to review by now. Without objection from the committee, we will hold the agenda and let Mrs. Taylor do the roll call and record the votes for the properly moved motions and the roll call to record the attendance for today's meeting. Do I hear any objection to any additions to the minutes? So they stand as stated. Okay, Ms. Taylor.
Thank you, Dr. Leonard.
Oh, I thought we were going to do that with all the attendance. Well, do we have a motion for the minutes? Okay, thank you. And second, Tony. All right, Mrs. Taylor.
All right. Dr. Cheryl Leonard.
Here, yes, aye.
Eddie Jordan.
Here, and yes, I approve.
Tony Moore. Dr. Brandy Gill. Kevin Harrison.
Here, and I approve.
Sherry Vernelson,
Here, yes.
Terry Fuller, Daniel Carter,
I'm here and approve.
Tanya Faulkner, Devin Tanner,
Yes.
Marsha Kelly, Bobby Dixon,
I approve.
Lieutenant Kinley Russell, Chad Aharon, Asim McGill,
Present.
Dr. Justin Owens,
Good morning, President. Approved.
Kella Hatcher,
Present and approve.
and Ebony Baker.
Present and approved.
Dr. Leonard, you do have a quorum.
Thank you so much. So our next line of item on our agenda is a partnership presentation that we started a couple of meetings ago in order to enlighten those on the committee as well as those on the outside to learn a little bit more about how our different partners play in respect to what this advisory council decides and presents back to the Board of Education. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Carl, who was able to gather our presenters at this time, and I'll let him do a little introduction.
Thank you, Dr. Leonard. Back right after the meeting from the November meeting, the National Transportation Safety Board reached out to us and wanted to discuss an initiative that they had in progress regarding teen driver fatalities. I am hoping I did not communicate with Dr. Marshall. Dr. Marshall, are you there?
Yes, I am.
He said yes.
Are you able to hear me?
Can you ask him to put on the audio so we can hear? Dr. Marshall, we're not hearing you in the room. We're going to work on that for just a second, but I'll go ahead and
Are you able to
read
hear
your
me now?
bio for you and Mr. Delaney. Is Brian on as well?
I am. Yes, I'm here.
Dr. Marshall is a senior traffic safety specialist. Dr. Marshall is at the National Transportation Safety Board for 26 years and has more than 33 years of experience in transportation safety. He has advanced degrees in cognitive psychology, system engineering, and public health. As a researcher and investigator, he has authored over 40 reports on such topics as teen driver safety, drug-impaired driving, driver medical oversight, fatigue and distraction.
I'm not sure I can hear anyone on that side, but I can read the subtitles. So I think we're ready to begin. Is that right? Oh, I see we lost audio in the room. I can hold for just a moment if that's preferred.
Dr. Marshall, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Are you able to hear me?
Hold on, we can't hear you in the room.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
See if we can take that microphone in that room. In education, you have to be ready to. I was thinking of a Marine term, improvise and adapt.
I can always go to. Are you able to hear me?
There we go.
Okay, great.
Marshall, I read your bio. You can take it away.
Perfect. And I'll begin, start off our presentation. Good morning, and thank you for inviting us to the meeting today. My name is Brian Delaney. I'm accompanied by Dr. Raphael Marshall. We both work at the National Transportation Safety Board's Office of Highway Safety. Today, I'd like to introduce you to the NTSB and to our investigative process, and then I'll transition to Raphael, who will follow by telling you a bit about our most recent investigative report on a crash involving a teen driver. Next slide, please. Our interest in speaking with you today is due primarily to an ongoing investigation into a crash that occurred on July 26th, 2025 in Charlotte involving a teen driver. Next slide, please. Because this is an ongoing crash investigation, I only share with you what has been made public at this time. The crash sequence began when an SUV and minivan came in contact with each other on the outer loop of Interstate 485. The SUV had occupied the middle lane, and the minivan had been in the right lane. After they made contact, both vehicles traveled toward the right and collided with a semi-trailer stopped on the shoulder of the road. As a result of the crash, a 16-year-old SUV driver and the 27-year-old minivan driver and 4 minivan passengers were killed. One passenger in the minivan survived with serious injuries. At this time, all aspects of the crash are under investigation. However, the circumstances of the crash provide us with an opportunity to share with you what the NTSB has done to improve teen driver safety. Next slide, please. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the NTSB, we are a small independent federal agency tasked by Congress with investigating every civil aviation accident and incident in the United States. While we are most often associated with our aviation crash investigations, we also investigate select crashes in other modes of transportation, including marine, railroad, pipeline and hazardous materials, and of course, highway. In each of our investigations, we determine the probable cause of each crash, and most importantly, make recommendations to improve safety. Since we have no regulatory or enforcement authority to mandate action on the recommendations we make, we rely on stakeholders like you to help us improve transportation. Next slide, please. When the NTSB investigates a crash, we take a comprehensive, multidisciplinary system safety approach. We look into the role of every individual involved, the state of the vehicles and roadway structures, and the environment, which not only includes weather, but also the policies and regulations that govern the operation of vehicles on the roadways. Due to the in-depth and detailed nature of our investigations, we typically release a final investigative report and probable cause between 18 months to 2 years after a crash. Next slide, please. This illustration here gives you an idea of our process. We usually stay on scene for about a week to gather as much evidence as we can and continue to gather and analyze evidence for months after that. We publish a 1 to 2 page preliminary report about 2 weeks after the crash. This report contains very basic information about the crash and lists the parties to our investigation. For major crashes, we might hold the public hearing to obtain sworn testimony from the likes of industry and government officials. After about a year, we release a docket containing all the relevant material we collected during the investigation, except for classified information or information protected by HIPAA. Finally, we present our findings, probable cause, and safety recommendations to the politically appointed board members of the NTSB for their approval before publishing the final report. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Thank you. After our report is published, we continue our work with stakeholders to make sure our safety recommendations are addressed. And we also constantly conduct outreach activities to advocate for safety improvements and publish safety alerts that inform the public of hazards we discovered in our investigations. Now I'd like to hand off the presentation to Dr. Raphael Marshall, who will discuss our most recently completed investigation involving a teen driver.
Hello, Dr. Leonard and the rest of the DEAC. As you know, my name is Raphael Marshall. I'm a senior investigator with the Office of Highway Safety here at the NTSB. What I'd like to do now is tell you a little bit about our completed investigation into a crash that occurred in Tishomingo, Oklahoma on March 2022. Next slide. The crash occurred when the teen driver in a 2016 Chevy Spark, shown here, turned left into the path of a tractor trailer. The road that she'd been on was controlled by a stop sign, and the intersecting road had a speed limit of 50 miles per hour, and its traffic had the right of way. Next slide. Based on the evidence we gathered, the teen failed to stop at the stop sign after the vehicle in front of it pulled out into the intersection. Instead, she accelerated past the stop bar into the intersection at full throttle. Next slide. What we found was that the teen driver had possessed her intermediate license for only 4 months. She had also been in the vehicle with 5 other teens, which was not only against Oklahoma's GDL laws, but which also acted as a source of distraction for the driver. Finally, the post-crash toxicology report indicated that the driver had a high level of cannabis in her blood, suggesting recent use. Consequently, the NTSB determined that the probable cause of this crash was the teen driver's acceleration through the intersection after briefly slowing without stopping due to distraction from having 5 teen passengers in the car, limited driving experience, and likely impairment from cannabis. Next slide. Recreational cannabis is illegal in Oklahoma. However, medical cannabis was easy to obtain, and 10% of Oklahoma residents possessed a medical cannabis card. And at the time of the crash, there were at least 6 dispensaries in Tishomingo, Oklahoma, which was a town of 3,000 people. And Oklahoma had by far the most cannabis dispensaries, so you can imagine how easily cannabis could be normalized among teens in Oklahoma. And at the time of the crash, medical cannabis products in Oklahoma were not required to include a warning label on their impairing effects. The NTSB recommended that Oklahoma include a warning label, and it finally did so in November of last year. Next slide. So what does the Tishomingo crash investigation have to do with the North Carolina DEAC? Cannabis legalization is in one form or the other is becoming more and more common, and North Carolina is not immune to this. What's more, cannabis use among teens continues to increase, with the CDC reporting that 30.7% of U.S. high school 12th graders reported using cannabis in the past year, and 6.3% reported using cannabis daily in the past 30 days. Next slide. Our investigation showed that Oklahoma did not properly educate its teen drivers to the risks of cannabis impairment, and so we made several recommendations to the state to improve its curriculum and driver education material. With the growing prevalence of cannabis use, we hope that North Carolina will consider strengthening its curriculum as well. Next slide. In the same vein, we also made recommendations to several national organizations to also strengthen education on cannabis impaired driving. Next slide. And as I've said, Tishomingo is just one recent teen driver crash investigation we've completed. However, the NTSB has a long history of advocating for improved teen driver safety. I've included a QR code for the Tishomingo report in case you're interested, as well as a QR code for our safety advocacy webpage. And thank you for inviting us to speak today, and I hope we get the opportunity to meet again soon. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for the presentation. Very good information, and I'm sure it will initiate a lot of questions. And I guess I could start with my question. As the agency responsible for the public school curriculum for driver education. My question would be, in general, across the country, what would you recommend for curriculum standards, or what components in the curriculum standards would you see that needs to be required? Right now, we have a requirement of 6 hours of drug, alcohol, or related subjects. Anything in other specifics that you may be able to think of?
Well, right now, I think you also recommend using the ADCEA standard, and we did look at the ADCEA standard, and it seems like it's pretty good. It's got more information on cannabis use. I know that one of the things that we noticed when we did our Tishomingo crash is a lot of associations and a lot of districts, a lot of states did not have as much information on cannabis as it should, considering how prevalent the drug is, and it's seems to be even getting more prevalent. In North Carolina, this prevalence is increasing, even though it's still an illegal substance. So I think what we can say, I don't know if we can really speak to your curriculum, but what we can say is that with the amount of cannabis use nationwide, there seems to be a need for further information in education and just in public announcements as well that need to be made by the state, and there needs to be more exposure to the risks of cannabis in the education system throughout the nation. Brian, would you like to add anything?
I don't have anything else to add. The only thing that I think that we also, saw with our Tishomingo investigation is the opportunity for engagement with parents, and the opportunity to help them to understand the risks of marijuana impairment and also include them in that driver education work or experience that the students are engaged in, to make sure that parents and students are in lockstep as they talk about the risks of impaired driving as it pertains to marijuana. So I think that's another thing that we really wanted to emphasize with our Tishomingo report.
Thank you. Are there any questions from members regarding?
Yeah, I have a question, please, if you don't mind. This is Justin Owens. I'm a researcher at UNC Highway Safety Research Center. Just wondered if you all could talk at all, if you'd looked into partialing out or the relative responsibility of cannabis versus the 5 teen passengers, or other factors, but we certainly know that teen passengers are a major risk factor, and wondered if you were able to talk at all about the relative contributions of those different aspects.
No, we really don't. We just know that, based on the research that's out there, that having other teens in the vehicle will cause a distraction. Unfortunately, we really don't have any further information on it. There was no, for example, there was no driver monitoring systems or anything like that. We do know that there was definitely recent use of marijuana involved, probably within 5 or 10 minutes prior to them getting into the vehicle, based on the concentration of marijuana or cannabis in their blood system. We also know that it's just the driver that we tested. We weren't able to test the other students that were in the car, but no, we weren't able to parse out how much of it was distraction versus impairment.
Thank you. Any other questions from the members?
Just a comment, Carl. This is Kella Hatcher, and I'm with the Child Fatality Task Force, and we've studied both the graduated driver's license program and trying to keep that strong, but also we've also studied intoxicating cannabis. And a lot of folks in North Carolina, because marijuana is illegal, assume that it's not as much of an issue, but in fact, it's the other way around, because what happens is that there are a lot of forms of intoxicating cannabis that are widely available and accessible to youth in vape shops and other places. And you know, when ALE does raids on some places, a lot of what's in there is actually illegal. And yet what happens is that a lot of youth can walk in, because there's no age limits. They can walk into any vape shop, get these intoxicating products, and there's a lot being looked at and folks trying to figure out how to do this. The federal government is changing their laws related to this next November. But point being that a lot of folks aren't aware of what a big issue it is in North Carolina, and we've had a dramatic increase in kids showing up at emergency departments for THC ingestion ever since the laws changed that created this situation where we have widely available intoxicating cannabis. And so it's possible that, you know, we in North Carolina aren't focusing enough on the THC issues and the, you know, the cannabis issues, because we're thinking, well, it's not, you know, as available, when in fact it is. So I just want to kind of flag that for those who aren't aware. The governor has a cannabis council that is working on these kinds of issues. It's very concerned about youth safety. Our child fatality task force is. And so I definitely think that, you know, there's a lot of work to be done on this. Regardless of how the laws change, kids probably do not understand. And so, yeah, thanks for this presentation, and it's good to hear.
Ms. Hatcher, thank you for providing your insight here in this. And I know that you are quite active in this area. Look forward to communicating with or have ongoing communications with the NTSB, Dr. Marshall, Mr. Delaney, going forward. Once you have more information, I would be very interested in how we can get more professional development available to our teachers. We have over 1,000 teachers. Lots of times when teachers get out into the field and out of their class, original class, they are somewhat in the same situation as the students. They are learned by word on the street, and it's not very accurate. So look forward to getting information directly from you all on the direction we should head with education of our teachers, so we can get accurate information down to our students. One last quick note was the key element that's listed in our 5 areas of focus is parental involvement, which is almost missing, which is critical in your area or what you just mentioned. So I look forward to the committee on developing strategies or making recommendations on how we can get the parents involved in this process. Actually, I do have one more. Recommendation. I believe that a lot of our classrooms are structured toward operational training for students in the car as opposed to behavioral. Do you feel that behavioral or decisions such as whether kids should get involved with drugs or alcohol, can that be done in the classroom, or does it take an additional specialist in some way?
Brian, you want to take this?
Sure. No, I think that there's a lot of great work that's going on out there to educate young people on decision making, and there are several organizations that are working in the space of theory of planned behavior, and looking at how, when it comes to impairment or drug and alcohol use, how obviously peer pressure plays a role into this efforts, but also I think that there is a space in the classroom to be able to talk about the risks, to talk about decision making and how that can be impacted by impairing substances. So I think that it is, it is an important conversation that can start in the classroom. Like you said, Carl, should start in the home. NTSB issued a safety alert, specifically talking about marijuana impairment, with some helpful tips and tools for for parents to have those conversations with young people. So that discussion about behavior and how behavior can have impacts on your driving experience can begin at the home, be reinforced in the school, and then even more reinforced through a driver education experience as well. So I think that conversation needs to be happening really in all three spaces.
Thank you very much for that. And Carl, thank you for providing some more insight on the various numbers of issues. I think Ms. Hatcher mentioned the task force that was being developed through the governor's office, and they're looking at providing a plan that we hope will be able to utilize for the driving education program as well, to help do the education for the students and for the parents. I think it's interesting, and even in some of my research, when I talked with some of the students, when we talked about impairment at the time that I was talking about, not so much cannabis was not prevalent as much as alcohol. And many of them provided insight to, well, I watch my parents do it all the time, and as long as they're in the house, it's okay. And then my follow-up was, well, you're in the car when you're drinking. Well, they're still alive, so it seems to be okay. So the perception, I think, that students have sometimes is a little bit closer to home than what we might even think. And so sometimes we can educate the students, but we really need to start educating the parents as well. And of course, not all parents do that, but when we look at some of the pieces of the puzzle, we need to not discount some of that just so that we don't hurt feelings. So thank you, gentlemen, very much for providing this insight. And I know I'll personally be back in touch with you because I'd like for you to speak at another event that we're occurring shortly. So
Well, thanks for inviting us.
thank you.
Thank you.
Next section coming up will be the focus group update. And unfortunately, our vice chair is not able to be here today. However, Mr. Devin Tanner, who is a representative from the North Carolina Driver and Traffic Safety Education Association, is going to enlighten us. On the DPI rules amendment. Riveting information.
Thank you. I am the chair for the Rules Focus Group Committee for DEAC. And just to give a quick overview, we are looking at proposed changes to the rules for the driver education program and making recommendations and edits. We've had 3 meetings thus far since December 28th, and our committee consists of 7 people. Essentially, DPI has provided some remarks at those meetings to start out. And then as a group, as a committee, we understood that the proposed changes are to correspond and to align with current board policy. The intent is to still maintain state board policies as a comprehensive statement of the governing laws and rules covering driver education, and as the primary tool which students and school districts observe these requirements. The rules provide the legal backstop should litigation arise, and the proposed rule changes will achieve all of these goals. In addition, DPI will be proposing updates to policy later this year. Let's see here. Okay. As you can see on this slide, we have gone through the rules, starting with the definitions, and 0301 in the rules was the proposal was to strike all of that out, and we had questions about that, and so the language has actually been moved to 0304. So that language is not struck out or done away with. It's just being moved to a different section. DPI General Counsel Carl Logan will provide some insight to this a little bit later. There were several questions regarding teacher certification in 0302. There is a recommendation to replace language from being 4 years of driving experience to, quote, fully licensed. And this would actually raise the age minimum to 22. If you look at the second line there under 0302, 10 years would align with DMV rules, and also recommended to include the requirement of no convictions of moral turpitude in the requirement to pass background checks. These align with the DMV language as well. We're grateful for the DMV being involved with this committee as well to give us their insight and their rules. We understand that the State Association and DMV are courting the idea of possibly bringing back the community college program. In the current recommendations, the reference to the community college program has been eliminated. Does this allow the community college to become accepted?
We have general counsel in the room. I'm going to ask that we get back with you on the response to that, unless, Ryan, you'd like to make a...
The question is whether or not those community college programs would be permissible if they were to come back.
Yes.
Yes. So that's something that Brian Collins, by the way, Deputy General Counsel. It's been a while since I've been to one of these meetings. But so I've been working with Carl on the rule. The reason that provision was taken out and replaced with what you see there is the fact that that program doesn't exist. And in conversations with our partners out in the school districts, this has allegedly presented some problems with them being able to enroll their folks in other programs in order to train them as instructors. So that's why we have added in these other programs that are explicitly mentioned. As I've told Mr. Logan, if and when those community college programs do come back, I think we can certainly look at taking a future amendment. So, these rules are being updated as part of the 10-year review process, and so that they can remain on the books. It doesn't prohibit the possibility that they could be amended later. But the idea, I think my recommendation to Mr. Logan was that we wait and see if those community college programs come back and look at them to see what form they take. Because my advice is it would be unwise to write a rule based on speculative future programs, especially not knowing what those may look like. So for now, those programs are not covered by this rule revision because they don't exist. If they come back, then I think DPI would look at the content of those programs in consultation with this group to determine whether or not that should be added back in through a future amendment process.
Okay, thank you very much. As many of us know, we have a shortage of instructors statewide for driver education, and there are not a lot of avenues to be able to train and certify instructors statewide. There are some counties that are able to certify instructors that they're able and certified to teach that certification course through DMV. The DMV course, however, is focused much on opening a driver education business as opposed to training teachers how to actually teach and teaching pedagogy and things like that. So 0304, there was significant discussion regarding no virtual classroom guidelines, but there were concerns. All right, Carl. Carl, do you have any recommendations regarding the SBE policy route? Oh, that's okay. We're down to 0304.
So regarding virtual classroom guidance?
Yes.
Great question. There are existing, there's existing language in the current state board policy regarding classroom requirements. A few years ago, General Counsel and I got together and we broadened that guidance somewhat. It doesn't specifically talk about virtual classrooms, but currently in policy, there's language there that somewhat governs all classrooms, being that it has to be teacher-led. The district requires, or the district is, sets the number of people or students in classrooms such as that. I'll have to get back with you on exactly what the language is in there, but there's no language that was developed specifically for virtual classrooms. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you. I want to go back real quickly to 0302, number 2 there. The DMV rules that we are trying to align with those 10 years is having a felony on your record regarding being able to, and remind me, Carl, if I'm correct, being able to be certified as a driver ed instructor. The term moral, where is it? Moral turpitude. That was in question as to what that actually meant. And so we looked at it, and DMV had pretty much let us know that was, whether it's a misdemeanor or a felony, because technically a misdemeanor on the record is within that 10-year scope as well, but a misdemeanor could be a speeding traffic ticket. So there was question about moral turpitude in that definition. So just wanted to be clear about the 10 years of not having something on a criminal record.
I think our current policy says 5 years.
Yes.
And so we're setting policy based on what the minimum requirements are, and the districts can increase that, correct?
Yes, that's correct. And I know part of the goal with this change was to eliminate the phrase good moral character. That is a phrase that is used in many occupational licensing contexts, but has also been subject of litigation all the way up to the North Carolina Supreme Court. And it is a term that the Rules Review Commission is becoming increasingly more concerned about. And so as part of these revision process, I advise that we come up with something more specific. And I think this was derived from the existing DMV requirements. So that's where that 10-year provision comes from, as I recall.
Thank you very much. As you go down to 0305 real quickly, driver eligibility is not part of driver education. And so there were no recommendations on that. The current recommendations from Department of Public Instruction were just there to create standardized guidelines for hardship requests, which driver education really does not have anything to do with. At the DPI level, Carl, do you handle driver eligibility?
In the building, I guess I'm somewhat the one who has inherited driver eligibility. The only connection between driver eligibility and driver education is that you can use driver ed funds to print the certificates. That is in statute. So, but that's the only connection.
Okay, thank you. On this new slide that I've just put up, it shows the stages of the rulemaking process and the dates by which our deadlines by which we need to have met and made our recommendations so that Department of Public Instruction can introduce them to the school board. So we are currently in the public comment period for these recommendations, and then a vote by the state board to adopt the final rules and policies comes on May 7th. As a committee, we had really tried to give in ourselves until the end of February to make sure that these that we've got our hands and our minds around this. But we will probably be having another meeting past that. However, we have until April 3rd is our deadline, correct, Carl? For the public comment period?
Yes. As we are in the public comment period, we have heard only 2 requests from the public regarding language or questions of the proposed changes. I'd like to remind everyone, this actually started in 2023 for this committee to be involved in this, and then it was paused for a while. But thanks to General Counsel last fall, we were able to put all this together, and we felt like that to renew the rules to keep them from expiring. This is what we propose to go forward with. And like Ryan said earlier, we can go back and analyze additional changes if we need to.
Okay, thank you. And then finally, it won't be until July 1st that these recommendations and changes would be made to the rules after the school board votes on it. So that is all I have for my update for our Rules Committee. I look forward to continue working with our committee and Mr. Logan so that we can get these squared away and updated. The rules have been they're very outdated. They haven't really been looked at, and changes have been recommended for a long time. So I'm grateful that we get to do this. So thank you, Carl.
Thank you, Mr. Tanner. Any questions from the committee to Mr. Tanner? No. Carl, can you explain possibly where people can go to write public comment?
I'm going to defer to General Counsel.
I'll defer back to Mr. Logan because they can email their public comments to him or mail them if people still do mail to the DPI office. So he tasked him with receiving and collecting those public comments, and then agency staff will review those in addition to the comments that have been shared by the committee to determine if any further changes to the final rules are needed. So the public comment period is really geared towards the public at large, the folks outside of this agency. I think this group is part of the internal DPI fabric, so we certainly welcome this group's input as well as we try to get these corrected. So I'm just the lawyer. You all are the subject matter experts, and so we welcome y'all's input as this process continues.
Thank you for that. Where exactly, if I was just somebody that wanted to make a public comment, where would I go? You want your number out there?
It is actually on the.
Well, the notice has Carl's email and then the address for the department, and so email is generally the easiest because those are easier to track. And there is also a public webpage that has details about this process. If you just Google State Board of Education rulemaking, that's the easiest way to find it. It should be the first thing that comes up. Okay. But it's on our website, and that's where we post all of the details about our rulemaking process. And that's where most folks will find information. It's also published in the North Carolina Register, which is put out by the Office of Administrative Hearings. Not many people are familiar with that process, that website, though, so we refer folks to our public-facing website.
Thank you. I applaud you for mentioning snail mail in this day and time. I like that myself. However, I do know that there are so many folks that like electronics. So knowing that they have Carl's email address, they can email him, and you've already received 2
Right.
responses as well.
Yes.
Okay, very good.
And we sent these out to all of the coordinators at the local high schools, districts in the state, as well as this body. So
Mhm. Good. All right, and if there are any questions regarding this, they can connect with you, Carl, correct? Okay. All right, thank you so much. All right, so I think now I shall, if there's, let's see, no old or new business, I will turn it over to Carl to give us a DPI update.
thank you again, Dr. Leonard. Regarding the DPI processes, we found out from just actually a couple of days ago regarding the advisory committee policy revisions. We will go forward with our appointments for the advisory committee for the coming year. The policy is not developed yet, so we're going to continue with the one that's in place currently. There will be 4 members of this body from the schools that will be rotating off, or their member terms end on July 1st. The next topic, teacher certification pathways. We are still in the search and development stage of pathways for teacher education. Currently, there's 48 districts across the state that do not have access to new teacher training. ADCA University, where I happen to be the national president, is developing a learning management system with a program on it. It is in the final stages. I've tested it. It looks very much like the previous program that we had here at DPI called STEP. Also, I understand that the North Carolina Driver and Traffic Safety Education Association, along with Division Motor Vehicles, are in discussion with the community colleges to develop a training program there. I'm not sure if Mr. Fuller or Mr. Fink may want to expand on what their plans are, or Devin, you, and also you have the vice president, one of the vice presidents of the association, may want to provide more information about that at this time, or we can wait a little bit later.
There really isn't a whole lot of information regarding the state association and their communication with community colleges at this time.
Thank you. Moving forward, I'm sure this next topic will be very interesting and probably controversial. I won't say probably, is a controversial subject. Trending classroom delivery strategies. First, what I'd like to do is provide the committee and the other stakeholders with the context regarding a fast progressing national trend that has reached our state regarding traffic safety education. Nationwide, there is a well-documented shortage of driver education teachers. As a result, online delivery outlets have been increasing rapidly. We are already seeing the local effects of this trend due to public schools experiencing significant backlogs of students seeking driver education. This has led students and families to access alternative programs outside the traditional public school model. Based on these conditions, it is reasonable to anticipate, I would speculate that DMV has already experienced an increase in private and commercial school applications for driver education. Some years ago, I'm going to pivot just a quick moment to my previous experience working with commercial schools across the country, and in Georgia specifically. A law change there that 20 years ago that increased the number of commercial school applications over 400%. They had a 800% increase in instructor applications. And that swamped the Department of Driver Service. I'm trying to remember the acronym, DDS, Department of Driver Services. Our equivalent is the School Bus and Traffic Safety section on the oversight of these new schools that popped up. There was very little guidelines regarding standalone driver education classrooms. And they were really jumping through some hoops there at the beginning to try to get this started, and it was really out of control. What I'd like to do here very quickly is define what we're talking about. Virtual driver education, got ahead of myself, standalone or asynchronous programs, which are typically computer-based or paper-based and completely independent by students, but never has been an approved method for credit in the classroom in North Carolina by either DPI or DMV. But let us not confuse virtual classroom, which is a real-time instruction method where students and instructors are not in the same space, but most often conducted through a computer-based platform. Extended teacher preparation is needed to be effective in this area. As I said, before coming to DPI, I had a lot of experience in this area. Quite frankly, as we have already experienced, this is going to be a challenge for the districts. Extra training is going to be required. As far as the standalone and asynchronous programs, this one's a little bit more confusing, I would say. At the moment, what I'd like to do is I'd like to pivot to Mr. Ryan Collins again. You didn't know he was going to work that much today, really, right, Ryan? To provide some information regarding a DMV rule change that we've been talking about.
Are you talking about in reference to the classroom, the requirements for
Yes.
commercial schools?
Yes.
Okay. So this is pivoting away from the teaching strategies discussion.
Just briefly, yes.
Okay. Sure. So we've been having several, I think, productive conversations with staff over at DMV about an existing rule that they have in place governing governing commercial programs for individuals, commercial driving schools for individuals that are under 18. The way the current rule is structured, it indicates that they are required to follow the requirements set by DPI. And that has created a lot of confusion in the field about how much oversight DPI has of these commercial schools serving under 18, individuals under the age of 18. There have been some recent changes to that governing statute that is applicable here. I don't have that citation in front of me, but there was a law that was passed by the General Assembly last year that modified that statute that I think will hopefully provide some relief in that area. And we have been working with, having conversations with DMV about ways to potentially modify their rule in order to address that and hopefully get us out of this quagmire that we've been in. So we haven't finalized anything yet. We're going to be having ongoing conversations with their staff around how we can address that issue. And hopefully we'll have more to share at the next quarterly meeting.
Thank you, Ryan. Now back to the standalone. I'm understanding from DMV that recently, during this time period where we've been somewhat without concrete guidance on these standalone programs, we understand that a program has been, or at least one program has been approved for operation in North Carolina. This is going to be quite challenging, and at this point, I'm not really prepared to go into it, but this is something that the schools, teachers, stakeholders such as this group, many other groups will be dealing with. I'm really trying to walk on eggshells here for the moment. Based on my experience, asynchronous or standalone programs are largely ineffective. Standardization, there is no global accreditation body or to oversee such programs. They operate without geographic boundaries. They market themselves as being credible pathways for licensing. So there's only one school in North Carolina right now that I know that according to DMV will probably be offering a strategy such as this. The accessibility, many lack reliable access to necessary technology, raising serious concerns on equity. Effectiveness, when I came to DPI, there had been a pilot done with standalone programs back in 2012. When I got here, there were still over 400 kids that were stuck in the system that never finished. As I mentioned, the credibility, these are all questions going forward that I'm sure that there will be a lot of discussion going forward. Does anyone have any questions, concerns, or just general comments? I know we haven't covered this very well, but this is a very, very sticky topic, as it's never been done in the state before. You want this?
I have taught students who have had a standalone program in a small school system.
Mm-hmm.
I've taught them behind the wheel. They knew very, very, very little information. In my experience, I've been in education 51 years. I've taught 5,000 as of 1994. Standalone programs are not very good for students.
This is Sherry Vernelson. So a couple of questions, and I hope I didn't miss the first part. So are you saying that the standalone is for the classroom portion as well as the driver, the behind the wheel portion? Is it for both, or is it just the one, the classroom portion? And then what data is available from other states about maybe the number of accidents that students have been in who were in, who took standalone only programs versus an in-person program? Is there any data of that sort?
I know that in Texas, there was a parent-taught study done, and it showed overwhelmingly that there had been a tremendous increase in the number of crashes there and fatalities, as well as students not being able to pass the written test or the testing there initially. There's not a lot of data nationally on this yet, because driver ed programs have been so spread apart, and there's no standardization up until ADSEA, the American Driving Traffic Safety Education Association, began with this national standard, with the national standards for the states to get together. So right now, I think there's about 38 of us who are active members of the National Association who are in pretty much constant communications to move this forward, to determine what you're asking. But yes, this is we're in the very infancy stages of determining all this.
Carl, this is Daniel Carter, NCDOT. I hadn't really had much introduction to this topic before, so thanks for bringing it up. Just a question, is this more just informative, kind of a heads up, or is there anything being asked of the committee right now or in the near future on this topic?
Hold on, Daniel, we weren't able to hear you, so I'm going to attach the microphone. So can you repeat your question, please?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, just for Carl. So Daniel, NCDOT here, and I hadn't really considered this topic before, so thanks for bringing it up. And just wanted to know, for the committee, is this something that is this more of just kind of an FYI, like a heads up, or is there anything being asked of the committee at this point or in the near future that we would need to do any background reading or doing anything that we would need to provide input on?
At this point, it's just information for you all. My next question actually is, where do we go from here? If I have this right. There's a national standards. It's like, where do we go from here? There's no standards. The requirement, the door, as Mr. Collins just mentioned, the door is somewhat open based on the rule information that DMV has at the moment. There's a fear that, we may, if you want to use a battle or a war, you've got people coming in over the borders here now that it's open to come in and open their own programs. Or the fact that these commercial schools or these type of schools have been in operation nationwide for at least 10 years. And now the idea is just like the cannabis thing, where you got legalization of marijuana in some states, but not necessarily here yet. But those programs are available via the internet. So it opens a lot of doors to a lot of different things. So this is something that the committee will, I'm sure that some of you will be very, very interested in regarding how do you regulate these, who provides oversight, things like that. Mr. Moore again.
We have a number of students monthly that say they have these standing loan programs, they're taking a class, and we don't accept it. So I consider those programs across the nation would be like scammers are. They're selling something that they can't use. Because now I do take a class 6 hours a year for being a dealer license for automobiles. And I would not recommend it again. I've tried it.
I think we had one more question, Mr. Blisco.
Yes, we try to educate our 8th graders not only with our summer schedule offering, but one of the things we do mention to them is about some of the misconceptions with these online courses for our public. So if one does become approved, my 2 questions are you allowed to, will we get notice of the name of the company that is approved so we can communicate that with our students? And then furthermore, how would they be handling the RIP forms? Because obviously we're going to have to do the behind the wheel portion for those students. So I'm just looking to be able to share what we can with our students, especially those that'll be coming into the high school next year when we talk to them in April and May. Thank you.
Regarding the administration of the program, there is no requirement for students to complete this program in either phase, in the progress of the phase. It's recommended that they take the course or the program concurrently, classroom and behind the wheel. Regarding your question, you can require the students, the district can require the students to complete the classroom phase first. It's not required. That's a rule. That's a local rule. It's not. It will not be a state requirement. If that answers your question. It is recommended that they take classroom and behind the wheel concurrently. That would be the national standards, yes. Right. Mr. Morris.
I was one of those teachers that taught during the school day. First 18 days, they went classroom, and then you had to the second semester, the second 18 days. So 12 kids per class would finish up the first semester. That's a wonderful program. It worked very well. And of course, it's outside of school day now. So, but it does work nicely if you can do that, because it helps them grow educationally wise and become better drivers. I believe people I've taught told me that they liked it that way. The present program we have is they go to school all day long, then you go to the classroom. It's tough. Zoom or personal. That's got to be a tough situation. And we're in cafeterias, and that's not good. Yeah, that's along with your voice. We know that your learning is by lectures 5%, doing is read a book is 10%, and by investigation is 75% on plus. So it's not very conducive. But I like the idea of be able to drive some while they're behind the wheel, everybody in the classroom. But it's nice, works nicely. I did that for 13 years.
It's recommended that classrooms be taught in a classroom environment at the school level. Just a quick clarification: the program itself is no longer can be counted toward a graduation requirement, but it can be taught during the school day. Just for clarification.
So I think what I'm hearing from many of you and you yourself, Mr. Moore, is that a student having an opportunity to learn a little and then put it into practice and being out there in the vehicle and then coming back and even discussing what they learned with the other students is a better practice.
They can share their experience with other students also in the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
I usually do mine in groups.
Mm-hmm. And do you do that in Johnston County as well, similar, or everything's in the class first and then out in the field? Is that mainly because of time limits or the number of teachers that you have? Mm-hmm. And I guess, and this may be an unfair question, but I'll ask it anyway. So at the end of the day, when you finish all your students, do you feel like you have a good, productive number of students that are out on the road with confidence and education and ready to go?
Yes, I'm very proud of our program. I think we do a great job. And right now, they usually tend to drive, rule of thumb, within 2 months. And we're meeting those standards for the most part from our backlog with a number of employees we have. We're fortunate. And we require in our district all our teachers to be licensed teachers from a DPI standpoint, curriculum standpoint. So we know that pedagogy-wise, all those instructors are providing good classroom lessons for our students. And then they get driven within 2 months. I'd say over 90% of the time we're within that window. Some of our bigger schools might get up to 3 months, but we're pretty caught up. So it is at least close. I would say most finish in the same semester, depending on when the class is.
Okay. So it sounds like both scenarios are advantageous to the student. Any other comments, or Carl, did you have anything?
Without any other comments, I'd yield back. I would just, it sounds like that, again, I knew this was kind of uncharted territory. Where do we go from here? As a group, as a committee here, and also we have at the table 5 representatives from the local schools. What's the best route to take on ensuring that students are receiving the best and quality education? Mm-hmm. That's something that we'll have to figure out how to move forward with. As far as state board policy, we can update policy at any time. That takes about that's 60 days. I'll look at general counsel, about 60 days to do that. But it needs to be something that we discuss and understand that there's going to be language that's somewhat broad because one size doesn't fit all. Mm-hmm. And then making sure that everybody understands exactly what that means so that we don't, to use the pun, is to make sure that everybody doesn't get off the road and start doing their own thing. That's kind of where we are now. And with DPI's reduced staff, we kind of left in a position to where we hope that folks will follow the rules. But we have policy and we will have rules in place to make those recommendations, and hopefully folks will follow them. Dr. Leonard, I yield back.
Okay, well, and I think you've made some very poignant comments too. We have legislation, we have laws, we have programs that are in existence now. There are some creative ways to do different things, and they're coming to the table. And what are we going to do as an advisory committee to make sure that things are laid out so that teachers and educators and those that are training our children understand what the best practice is. And yes, there is a number of different ways to do things. We all agree to that. But if we can blend that and we can have a process policy, if you will, that allows everybody to read from the same plane. And we need to go from there to decide how we're going to do that. And whether it's developing another subcommittee or putting together folks that are have different programs so we can lay all that out so we can come back and present that once again to figure out what it is that we're going to do.
Just one more comment. This all is happening at a critical time, being that our districts are increasing the backlog amount of students they have. Also, the number of districts that are what I call below par has increased to 58. During COVID, we were at 85 districts that were below 70%. At the highlight or at the high water mark for the STEP program, we had only 23 districts who were below 70%. Now we're back at 58 again, so that's going up. With the shortage of teachers, my fear would be is that the decisions might be made at the legislature level to allow these things to move forward, and which will, once my experience in dealing with other states is that once they have decreased the regulations and you've lost all of your teachers, is that it's very difficult to turn that around. And that's what happened in Georgia during the DeKalb study, and that they lost their teachers, then they tried to restart it, and 20 years later, and that's what opened the door to, I think they had about 20 online or self-paced programs that were operating in Georgia that aligned themselves with local partners. And it was reported to us in a meeting that there had been a spike in teen crashes and fatalities of students right after they had finished the driver ed program. And also in Georgia, if it's not changed yet, but the requirement for driver education comes after they get their license. That was another thing to assist in students getting their license, but they hadn't been trained at all.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of standardization or shifts in ideologies from the states to get together and create a standardized program. And that's where the national standards were created that I mentioned a few minutes ago. Actually, part of our staff here at DPI were involved in creating these national standards. So,
okay. Well, I think we have a lot to think about, a lot to lay out, and we will begin to do that and look for our emails to you so that we can begin the process of identifying what our state needs to do before any other groups get a hold of it, because I think that's what our mission statement is to help stream and pull together a consistent policy and a program that we know works for everybody in North Carolina. But I do appreciate you bringing up other states. And I think sometimes it's good to look at what other states are doing, and some that have not been successful and some that have been successful. But we know we're in a very different time right now, and people are trying to be creative, to offset the costliness, the number of, or the lack of staffing, and many other variables that cause folks to come up with different and new creative ideas. So with that said, we'll be talking about that in more depth, and we'll bring it back to our next meeting, which I believe is May the 17th. And so is there any questions? There's an upcoming conference. Are you familiar with this?
This weekend, yes.
This weekend, and go ahead.
I think,
Are you sure it's May 17th? Because that's a Sunday.
is it?
Is it May? Let's see what we did. You didn't know we were going to change it on me last week?
We're going to start meeting on Sunday.
May the 12th. Okay.
Is it the 19th? Okay, so I have it wrong on the screen.
May 19th.
That's what happens when I look at my,
Actual day.
I got to make sure I got in the right year, because May 18th was last year.
Yeah, that's it. All right.
Okay,
So
sorry about that.
May 19th will be our next meeting, but the upcoming, there's two conferences here.
That's this weekend.
This week, you want to share?
Do we have anybody who's Southeast region? No.
Tony? Oh,
Yeah.
great.
That's in Charlotte, my hometown. So, but yes, that conference will be starting Thursday, I believe. It is set up on the same kind of format that the state association is, and then there's one coming up in April,
In Clemens.
the state conference, and then I think you know about this one.
And then there's, yeah, I do. In June 2nd through the 4th is our North Carolina Traffic Safety and Expo conference that we're having in Winston-Salem. If you'd like to register, if you go on that link, North Carolina Traffic Safety Conference and Expo, just type that into your search bar and it will populate. And we encourage anybody here today or online listening in to please register. There will be a number of different training programs, something for absolutely everybody. And as a footnote, if there's any particular vendors or somebody that would like to set up an area to showcase what they do, please email me directly and I will provide you with the information you need to do that as well.
Information on the website.
Oh, yes, www.ncvision0.org. My email address is not on there. So my email address is cleonard2@ncdot.gov.
You'll get a lot of phone calls.
That's fine. I will embrace every call and every email. I'm excited to hear from you.
And
Go ahead.
North Carolina is at the scene of the national conference this year. It's going to be in Cary at the Embassy Suites. We're very excited about this. It could be one of the highest attended national conferences we've ever had because North Carolina is one of the largest states of with membership in the national conference. But very excited about that. I'll get to pass my gavel over to the next person that's following behind. But it's been a fun year. There's a lot going on nationally. We recommend that people get involved with professional organizations, especially the state. We're talking to the state. I would highly encourage our stakeholders to take a more active role in how the program is administered, or at least make recommendations to your representatives. So, any other questions, comments?
Yeah. Rachel, would you like to say something? No? Okay. All right. With that, we will close the meeting if there's no further remarks or questions. Do I hear a motion to close the meeting? Thank you, Mr. Tanner. And second, Mr. Moore. Okay. Thank you very much. Y'all have a nice weekend and don't think that summer is finally here. I have a feeling winter's going to come back to get us. But as a snow lover, yay. I know. And it was absolutely beautiful. It was so pretty. So pretty.